And now, for a special treat, I managed to get hold of the very busy blokes from the Walford Weekly podcast to talk about the 35th anniversary of the BBC soap. Alex and Ben, welcome along.
Hello, thank you.
Hello.
These 4 episodes, this week of EastEnders had a lot riding on it in terms of, you know, it's a big anniversary. The 30th still resonates with me. I still liked all the build-up and the live episodes of the 30th. In terms of anniversary weeks, because you are EastEnders obsessives who probably remember the 15th anniversary, the 25th, all that sort of stuff. Where does this rank? Where do these 4 episodes rank for you?
I think quite highly. Like, I'm quite impressed with, you know, the budget of EastEnders isn't always the highest, but what they managed to pull off this week is actually quite impressive. Like, it didn't look cheap, and the stunts didn't look bad.
No,
they sunk a boat. I didn't expect that to happen. Quite high for me. It was better than the week when they were stuck in the bit with a bomb going off in the outside.
True.
There was a World War II bomb.
Matt, you sort of have been dipping in and out, and you came back on board to watch these 4, so you had a bit of a crash course in the last couple of months, and then
I did watched about sort of a month's worth in about a week, so
God,
that was fun. Yeah, I'm a bit of a fair weather EastEnders viewer, sort of tend to jump on just before Christmas and then stop watching, but you know, I thought I'd build up in anticipation of this, and I did watch these this week.
How did you feel?
I did like the way that they did, like they structured it throughout the week, because I sort of equated it to Jackie Brown, the way they sort of did different bits of the story, and then sort of Friday's episode was putting it all together. And there was a bit of a Reservoir Dogs element as well on Thursday evening, with the guns being pointed sort of 3 ways as well.
That was my least favourite element of the whole thing, when they turn into gangsters. Always my least favourite element of anything that EastEnders ever does. I was trying to work out the 7 hours thing, because every episode started with a big shock in the water, and then it was 7 hours earlier. What time did you make that? I was trying to work out, because Mick had been going around in that green suit for like the whole day, and I couldn't work out when.
Was it about midday-ish? Would you say when were they setting off?
They got on the coach at 3 p.m, I think.
Okay.
Ride, and then it becomes dark, and then
did they have to stop at services or anything, or was it?
Probably. Big Mo had quite a lot of wine and alcohol.
Yeah,
he probably had to stop off. Her bladder's not as good as it used to be.
Very small bladder.
Oh, that's a horrible image I've got now of Mo. Okay.
Stick image.
It feel like something special, and was that what makes it stand out for you two?
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. It felt special. It felt like it was an anniversary episode. They came out of the square. It was on the Thames. I mean, the favourite for me was at the end of the week. I thought Friday's episode was just outstanding. I really enjoyed the coming together of all the stories and the plot. I expected, spoiler, Dennis to die, but at the same time, it felt surprising. It still felt surprising, even though I expected it. And I think it was quite nice that they kept the Whitney story like bubbling along underneath, and like, right at the very end, you saw a
nice water reference there. Well done.
Yeah, you know, drop him in when I can. I think it was quite understated what they did with Whitney, and I thought that was nice that they did it that way, rather than because I was really worried that they started the week with Whitney and Mick, and I thought, oh goodness me, is it going to be just Whitney and Mick's relationship and Linda getting upset about it? But it wasn't, and for me, that's what brought it all together. I thought the coming together on Friday was really good.
Yeah, I mean, they managed to get a lot of different storylines in all together, didn't they? Sort of by doing that with the different sort of plot elements and things like that. And they've set a lot of stuff up for the future as well. So I liked all of that. The one thing that got me a bit was that Keanu didn't really go back to that warehouse to see where Callum was. He just sort of left on the tube.
The fact that Callum was completely blind to finding an exit.
just fell down there.
It was very dark in there.
Shirley found a way in.
Yeah, but Shirley found his great big door, gaping hole in the warehouse, you know, to find going in and out. And to say it's dark, surely he's adjusted to the light, so his eyes should be almost owl-like.
I thought the episode was really strong, as you saying, really exciting. But the death that they teased, I was a bit disappointed with the deathy, the dead person, but then you think about what the repercussions of that will be, and it's quite interesting, isn't it?
It's the impact it has, rather. That I think they did well in picking a character that you won't really miss, but whose death will impact on a lot of characters. And, you know, like Ian locked him in the room, and obviously, you know, it was Phil and Ben who caused the disaster in the first place and things like that. So there's a lot of people it will affect without really affecting the makeup of the show.
But it does worry me that they keep killing off legacy characters all the time, and every adult has half their children killed within the past 7 years, and they just replace that legacy character with a new baby. So they name them after their dad or their mum all the time. So for me, it feels a little short-sighted. Like, in 10 years' time, are we going to miss the grandson of Den Watts coming back? And there's so much that they could have done with Sharon as like a matriarch with a teenage son. That's now not going to happen. But as long as the aftermath is done well, then I don't mind.
Do you feel like the show is back on good ground now? Because you've been doing your podcast for a while, and you've gone through a few, through John York and Dominic Treadwell-Collins and all these different people, and the guy who shan't be named because he did all that stuff with the bins and all stuff, Sean O'Connor. Do you feel like it's on a even keel now? It's got its feet back on the ground. It's
improved. There's more improvements than not. Like the use of the cast being equally given storylines, and people aren't just being kept in their families on their sets and not interacting with each other. That's improved. But it is very headline grabbing. Like, there's been a lot of deaths suddenly, and a lot of guns, and a lot of characters who are acting out of character, like Martin, who's completely done a 180. Now he's a gangster. Some things don't settle well with me, but it's still a massive improvement on what we did have.
It's very much, I think, a Kate Oates show now, from what the impression I get from people who have said what she did with Emmerdale and Coronation Street. As Ben said, it's a sensationalist, almost for sensationalism's sake. I mean, you can only do that for so long before people become numb to it. And so I think that they need to just take a pace back and just stop being on the roller coaster quite so much. I mean, it's exciting for a viewer right now, but perhaps in about 6 months' time, if it carries on going at this very fast pace, we might find ourselves a bit
Hollyoaks.
A bit Hollyoaks, yeah. That's what we say on the podcast.
Say Hollyoaks. Yeah. As well. As I say, having watched sort of a month's worth recently, the stuff that sort of works is almost like the quieter stuff. I mean, Luke, me and you have said we both enjoyed the stuff with Gene Slater and Adrian Edmondson, and also the Keegan storyline as well, with the sort of the race relations and things like that. They've been my sort of favourite ones.
Yeah, I completely agree. And the same. Almost the background stories have been the ones that have kind of been more gripping. And actually, funnily enough, they seem to be the ones that a lot of people talk more about, which is obviously the point. So
because they're relatable storylines, like people can actually relate to those storylines, whereas you can't relate to Ben Mitchell at all. There's nothing I can relate to him with his gangsters and murdering someone who had an affair with his stepmom. It's just unrelatable.
I suppose the relatability is the relationship with Callum. I think that's possibly what people are thinking, people will latch onto.
I mean, people love that Callum story, don't they? And it's certainly pulled people in.
Do you think this was an improvement on Christmas, or do you think that the two sort of stand alone? Because Christmas, compared to this, Christmas was quite low-key, really, wasn't it?
It worked better than Christmas.
Yes, I think it structurally it was better because the story was coherent and it was a full story from the whole arc from Monday down to Friday. It was complete. Well, at Christmas, it seemed to jump around a lot.
And I also think it was quite clever how they've done this stunt. And normally when a soap does this, you're waiting until Friday to see the stunt, like on Emmerdale when they had that big crash pile-up. It's almost done in 5 minutes. Whereas the way they structured this week, the whole week we were watching this big stunt carry out. So
they got their money worth for the stunt.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I suppose it's because the majority of people were there. This isn't going to be another bus crash where they're all involved and then next week they're not discussing the bus crash. This is going to have affected a lot of the characters. So it was quite a very clever thing to do in the end.
I mean, they've shown a trailer, and it looks as though there's going to be, the fallout of it is so it's almost like Anniversary Week is spilling over to the following week, and that's nice too, because it means that anyone who did dip their toe in the water.
Oh, stop now! I feel seasick.
And watch the soap again. They'll be more inclined to watch it again this week as well, and perhaps keep an audience figure.
Do you think they made a big enough splash then?
I'm going to have to edit this all out because the people won't appreciate it. What would you like to see happen now as big EastEnders fans? I know you like to make predictions on things, but what's the next thing you're looking forward to, and what would you like to see come of the boat week, either story-wise or character-wise?
I want it to be planned out and not just have a few weeks of characters mentioning Denny's death and then that's the end of it. Like the death of Lucy Bill, you're still seeing storylines coming off of that now, and that was 5 years ago. So that's the one thing I hope, that Dennis, as a legacy character who's died, that we get story branches from. I'm just hoping it doesn't ruin Ian as a character like it ruined Max when he was involved with Stephen Bill stuff.
Let's talk about, just briefly, the stuff that wasn't on the boat. So we had Kathy and Sharon together.
Kathy delivering that baby for me was a little bit unbelievable. That just sort of that happened very quickly.
I know, she really had the skills as a midwife, didn't she? She when the baby came out and wasn't crying, and Sharon was like, "Why is it not crying?" And Kathy knew exactly the right thing to do. didn't need to Google it. She was there, rubbing the back of the chest. And
what did you think of that pairing? Because they had a strange relationship, not only recently but throughout the show. So it was kind of a nod to the past to bring those two together on this anniversary.
Yeah, Kathy was throwing out the references. She talked about Angie. I mean, I loved the moment when Sharon said, I missed my mum. That was really lovely. I loved that moment.
I should have said, because I saw her in Panto, so she's doing all right for herself. She's okay, Ange.
Oh no, I saw Letitia Dean in Panto back in the day.
So did I. She forgot all her lines in 1991 when I saw her.
Oh no, mine was sort of 96, and June Brown was in it as well in the same Panto.
Gosh, that'd be like your perfect Panto, guys. If you
I'd die after I'd seen it.
No more need to do anything else in life.
That was Crew Lyceum, I believe.
Crew?
Yeah, in Crew, yeah.
Wow. I thought you were going to say something like the Palladium or something.
What did you think of the bits that weren't on the boat? So all the Sonia and Leo and Martin stuff.
Oh, the Leo stuff was a bit.
It didn't gel.
All that stuff for me though. It went all very Luther, didn't it? When he was hiding in the loft.
Was that a nod to Lofty? Do we think?
I never linked it, but you never know. Could be. Very true.
It was in the loft. I thought maybe it might have been. But how did you feel about that? How that was resolved, and now. No spoilers. Whitney's in prison or on remand next week. Don't you think they give that character almost too much of a difficult life to be going on with?
She's a bit of a troubled one, isn't she? She just, one thing happens one after another. She doesn't have a rest.
The actress is so capable, though, that
she's
actually you can give her any storyline and I'll sit and watch it. She's great. But I found it odd that Sonia was so calm about the dead body.
I mean, when she found out that her daughter was taking drugs that had been like a bad batch of drugs, and she just kind of brushed it away. So, forget about that, Martin. There's another thing you need to see in the kitchen.
That line she gave to the coppers about a kettle being broken, though, I'd be suspicious after that.
I know, especially when it was 8, 9 o'clock at night. I was just heading out to Argos to get a new kettle. It's like,
get one online now, Sonia.
Yeah.
Same day delivery.
Kicking and screaming in the 21st century is our son.
But it was a bit of a triumph, and we'll remember it in years to come. If we're still podcasting by the time of the 40th, then I'm sure that will have a lot to live up to as well.